Well, hello, everybody, and welcome into another Boone Area Chamber of Commerce virtual community panel discussion. I'm David Jackson, President and CEO of the Chamber, and today we are talking about how the COVID-19 pandemic and just hiring and the challenges that come with having a staff today have impacted some area businesses and how they have used cross-training to help them through some of those challenges. With us today, we have three esteemed members of our business community who see this in very different ways because of the customers they service or the people that they provide services for. The challenges of making sure that a staff is able to imprint to today's human resources challenges certainly is quite different for all three of them. So Anthony Brumfield, we'll let you start the introductions, and thank you for being here today. Appreciate having you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on here today, David. Thank you for all the service that the Chamber has been doing. You have been a beacon of light during this hard time with all the information that y'all have been sharing and keeping people up to date of everything going on. So we just want to thank you so much for your assistance with that. I am Anthony Brumfield. I am the Assistant General Manager, Director of Sales, and Revenue Manager for the Hampton Inn and Suites right here in Boone. I oversee our major departments, our department leaders, and help guide them in the leadership of that, of running their teams and what that looks like for day to day. I also assist with the training of them as well. And right now, I think we are, in terms of COVID, like since COVID came and we started opening back up because we were closed for a little bit. We are now up to close to like 30 employees back. Our ideal is around 45 to 50 employees. So we're still trying to recruit and have people come back. We have seen an influx of applications, but we definitely want to make sure that we are continuing to be able to provide the best service that we can for the area.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Anthony, and we appreciate you being with us today. Jennifer Warren with Western Youth Network hardly needs an introduction in this community, but Jen, great to have you with us here today.
It's great to be here. It's just because I'm a fossil. So yeah, I have been with WIN for 18 years now. In fact, as of 2 days ago. So Western Youth Network, as most people know, is a lot like the Boys and Girls Club or Big Brother Big Sister agency here in town. And so we do mentoring and after school and summer programming for kids in the high country, as well as some community health programming to try to keep our children safe. We have about 15 employees right now. We had 2 leave over the summer that we're not replacing at the moment until our budget gets a little bit more stable. And right now we're all remote working. We did have a stint over the summer where we were fortunate enough to figure out how to do a safe in-person summer camp. But right now our team is remote working and will likely be in that state until at least December, and then we'll reassess then.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being here, and rounding out our panel today, Jesse Pope, who has been keeping us entertained throughout all of this, because Grandfather Mountain was one of the first areas to really kind of open back up for people to be able to visit what we needed at that time, a place where we could be outside, be around family, and be in a safe environment. So Jesse, thanks for all you and your team have done to provide that outlet for so many of us, and welcome to the panel today.
Thank you, David. Honored to be here today and to talk about this important subject. I hope it's helpful to other businesses. We have been fortunate to be in operation since mid to late May. We really didn't get back to a capacity of any significance until early June. But things are, we're operating, we're excited about that. Our ticket sales are still just a little bit less than 50% our normal occupation of the park. We've done that on our own. We're self-limiting the attendance just to make sure we're ensuring safe social distancing and those types of things. And with that, it's really required a lot more staff to be able to operate the park this year. And like Anthony was saying, it's actually very hard to find the staff that we need. We're currently at 96 employees. And normally this time of year, we're probably around 105 to 110 employees. So we're definitely less than we normally do. So what that means is, it's all hands on deck. It's people doing jobs they would not ordinarily do. And our staff has really rose to the challenge this year and done an outstanding job in that. We have educators that are here to be naturalists that are normally doing programs for school groups and leading hikes on our trails and educational programs for our visitors. And this year, they're disinfecting handrails and they're, making sure that we're ensuring social distancing around the park. And so everyone is filling different roles. If you come to the park, you probably would, you might be surprised, maybe not, but you'll find me probably in a safety vest somewhere working alongside the staff. So it's just all hands on deck this year to make it happen. But we've done a great job. Our staff's done an amazing job at making that happen. Definite challenges this year, but we're excited just to be open and to be able to provide that outlet. Grandfather Mountain is an outstanding outlet. The majority of our park is outdoors, and so it's been really positive, we feel, and we've received a lot of positive feedback from our guests in the way that we're currently handling things.
Well, Jesse, I think we'll start this first question with you, and we'll let other panelists chime in as they feel appropriate to answer all of our questions here today, because again, with the three types of businesses that you all represent, there is a lot of difference in how you operate, how many staff members you have to operate things, and really what it is you do, right? So not every question might line up perfectly with every panelist, but I think this first one may be general enough for all of you in wondering, prior to COVID, back when unemployment was, down around 2.8%, and we were all had our people, and we were all, dealing with what was a very busy summer last year that led into a very busy fall last year. How much did you really focus on making sure that employees you were hiring could be pressed into service in other areas of your operation if the need arose? How much was that on the radar a year ago at this time?
Sure. For us, we're fortunate that our retail shops, our food and beverage services, including our Mildred's Grill restaurant and the Fudge Shop, and our entrance gate, are all operating on the same computer system. So the operating system that handles all the cash registers and ticket sales, they're integrated. And so the staff, if you're trained on one of those registers, you can really operate any register on the park. So we have had a built-in level of that ability. Now, obviously, there's some training that comes to understanding different products or different individual processes in departments, but it has not been a major focus of ours. In orientation, when we hire new staff, we try to make sure they understand all the other departments on the mountain. They spend some time meeting other supervisors and meeting other staff. And while we're 100 employees, we really act like a family organization, a very tight-knit group. And so integration and cross-training has always been a part of our vocabulary, but there's definitely a higher emphasis on that now. And we anticipate an even higher emphasis on cross-training as we go into the fall and winter. As we go into cold and flu season, our policy is that any employee that has any symptom, I mean, you have seasonal allergies, you have a sniffle, you have to be out of work, and you have to be symptom-free for 48 hours with no medications or a negative test, and so for COVID. And so with that, there's definitely going to be more periods of staff being out of work. And so cross-training has become much more important. We've been talking about that a lot more with our staff over the last, say, 60 days or so.
It's a great point, Jesse, and I know something that people are really trying to balance out too. It's the unknown in what we're dealing with on an almost daily basis now. Anthony, how about you? I know that you have different departments set up in your hotel. How have you handled cross-training in the past?
Yeah, so when we hire people, actually even in the interview, we say, we know that you've applied for this position, but really that's just a title that we need to have for tax purposes and all for paperwork. But when you come to work here, you work here as a team member. And so that means we may need you in breakfast. We may need you in laundry. We may need you to help in housekeeping. We may need you to help at front desk. either way it goes, you're an ambassador and a team player for the whole hotel. So we actually encourage from the beginning to know that it is important for you to understand and learn other departments. Because there at any point in time, especially in the hospitality industry, there's a lot of fluctuation. There could be times where we have a full housekeeping staff and then we only have like 3 housekeepers, depending on what's going on. And we don't want to burn out those 3 housekeepers, right? So we've always encouraged cross-training from the beginning, in terms of like somebody has to learn how to do laundry. If you want to be a front desk agent, one of the things that we believe in, you should at least work a couple of days in housekeeping to understand what they go through before you're checking somebody into the room. And similar to what Jesse was talking about, we try to give people like a tour of the area and understanding of the departments and stuff like that when we hire them, so they can really know, no matter what position they're in, so they can really understand like what the rooms look like, what our processes look like, and really garner the culture. And our culture is teamwork. One of our things is just teamwork and really helping anybody out that needs that help. So that's just been something that's been a part of us since the inception of the hotel. I mean, you can catch Tara and I cleaning rooms and making beds. And it's always interesting because there's still some staff that are just marveled by that. They're like, were you just cleaning? Yes. Like, just because I have this title doesn't mean that I'm above going to do this or going to breakfast and serving our guests. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great tone to set in that kind of work as well. Jennifer, when Wynn is operating at its full speed and you have people that you can see in person, have you worked much cross training into your model, especially when it comes to knowing the show must go on when you're servicing students and you may have a staff member or 2 out? How have you handled that in the past?
Yeah, we have, and it's interesting. It's kind of nice for me to hear other people say that they do things similarly to us, because I guess I've always had this idea of like small nonprofit philosophy. Everybody does everything, but it sounds like that I'm not all that dissimilar from the other panelists in that regard. So we certainly do our own sweeping, cleaning, who knows what, and toilet cleaning and that sort of thing. But yeah, one of the things that I think was so valuable is that we all sort of assist in answering the phones. And it was just sort of this natural way that we all started learning more about everybody's programming, because you'll get some in-depth phone conversations at times, and it really helps you learn the intricacies of the other program, or to have to go and talk to another staff person and find out the answer. And so I think in the course of us just all assisting with that, we've all learned a lot about what everybody else does. And then right before COVID hit, we were also going with this plan that at our staff meetings, we would have one representative from each program talk in depth about what they do. So we really have a philosophy that if we bring down the silos of our programming, we will be better for our clients. So, there's a lot of cross involvement between our mentoring program and our after school and summer programs. And so the more each of our staff members know about what's going on in those programs, the better we can be for our clients and families. But yeah, we were going to do those presentations in our staff meetings where we had somebody talk about their department, talk about what they needed to know. So for example, for me, my world is really donors, and I wanted to make sure that if a donor called and somebody else answered the phone, or if somebody walked through the door and wanted to make a donation, that anybody who was able to receive that call or visit would know exactly what to do, because that's just paramount to our service. So, I think a lot of what we were doing happened very informally, and also just by virtue of having a small staff, everybody kind of had to fill in. Maybe we went to Blowing Rock School and picked up a child one day in the pickup line because somebody at after school wasn't available that day. So, it's just kind of the nature of having only 15 folks on staff. We're all doing sorts of things like that at any point in time.
Yeah, a lot of similarities in all of your answers to that, and I think again, kind of like Jennifer alluded to, I think that will kind of resonate with folks, because I think everybody has had to step into some unique roles here in the last little bit, but it's really changed how we think about what it would be that we would tell the next new staff member that walks through the door about making sure that they're not only knowledgeable about all things within our business, but they're ready to handle those challenges as well. Jennifer, I'm going to stay with you for a second here. Once the shutdown occurred, and I know your operation, again, a little bit different than what Anthony and Jesse are dealing with, but what did you feel like the most vulnerable element of your operation was, and how did you work to stabilize that with the staff and the staffing implementation that you had to make sure that Wynn could run at a time where everybody was kind of in hideout mode in their own houses and away from school and things along those lines?
Right. Yeah, I see our vulnerabilities as being twofold. One is looking at the folks that we work with and seeing what their critical needs were at the time. And then there's also the vulnerability of our organization from a business standpoint. And so to kind of speak to the clients first, I think that as soon as shutdown happened, we spent those first 2 weeks just making regular, sometimes daily phone calls and even distance visits to our folks to say, how are you? Are you okay? What do you need? Okay, you need schoolwork. We'll get that for you. You need food, but you can't get to the school. We'll figure that out. You don't have laundry detergent. Okay, we'll figure it out. So, I think that our vulnerabilities became the ones that our clients were experiencing. And so we just immediately pivoted to try to figure out how to meet those needs. But from a larger organizational standpoint, I think we kind of started looking at how does our staff still function as a team? How are we all doing as people? How do we make sure we check in on that in a way that's not adding something else to everyone's plate, but it's still helping everybody feel connected? Because right now we all just need to feel connected and that we're okay. And then of course, funding. I think all of us had this funding crisis and scare. And so in March, we were planning for an in-person gala in June. And, the gala that we host is the biggest fundraising event for us, biggest money event for us all year. And so we had to immediately make some pretty quick decisions about what do we do? Do we cancel? Do we go virtual? And I think we were probably among some of the first people who decided to do a virtual event and had to pretty quickly turn and make that happen. And so, we were looking at vulnerability of clients, vulnerability of our staff members to try to feel connected and okay, and then also the vulnerability of our finances. And, that's a little bit of how we handled each of those.
That sounds awfully familiar. Everybody's sitting there shaking their heads like, yes, did the same thing. Jesse, how about you all? You have a unique set of circumstances where I don't think people could take like river otters home with them. So you had an operation you had to maintain even during the closure. How did you do that?
Yeah, that's true. And it was a major challenge for us, especially during the, our complete closure, which was May 14th through about the 15th of, March 15th through about the 15th of May. So it was about 2 months. We actually isolated our staffs, and it's something we've actually continued even beyond the closure, but we had a limited staff members. When you're dealing with otters and bears and mountain lions, you can't really do that by yourself. So it does take a team to be able to safely take care of those animals. And so that group, we basically identified teams that work together, and they would come in, work to care for the animals, and then disinfect everything, cleaning vehicles and offices for the next day. And when the next team came in, they really did the same duplicate cleaning, just to make sure we weren't taking any chances with our critical staff. But you're right, there's a lot of maintenance that has to happen in a park like this. We just can't let it go. And from an operational standpoint, that was challenging. From a financial standpoint, as Jennifer mentioned, it's been a real challenge this year. With a 50% decrease in our attendance, also we have that decrease in revenue. And so, trying to make that up, luckily, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit as well. And luckily, we have had donors that have stepped up to the challenge to help us make it through these challenging times. But certainly a financial challenge for our organization. Most of our costs, to the point of talking about the animal habitats, are fixed. We have pretty fixed costs, and then of course a fluctuating revenue stream. And so that's something that we always have to balance. This year we had to make some pretty significant cuts in our budget. Some of those things were deferred maintenance, things we were planning to do this year that were more capital in nature, paving roads and repairs around the park. We deferred some of those to 2021 just to try to balance the budget a little bit. But we're hanging on. We're doing okay in those regards. But those were definitely some of our challenges: the financial challenge, and then just that operational challenge. Things are just very different. And one more thing that I'll mention since reopening is just traffic patterns in the park. So it takes a lot more staff. The swinging bridge, just as one example, that's one-way traffic because the swinging bridge itself is only about 4 feet wide. So you can't keep a 6-foot distance and safely pass each other. So we basically have traffic staff on either side of the bridge. And so a group goes across the bridge, they get safely up towards Linville Peak, and then the returning group comes back across the bridge. And so obviously that creates some time limitations, which is one of the reasons we have to limit our attendance. But it also requires staff that normally are not there. And so, people that would be doing other jobs like educational programs or maintaining hiking trails or even our admin staff. We have our marketing team, our fundraising team. Everyone's out on the ground helping make these operational challenges possible just so we can operate. I've been saying for most of the year that, we're doing twice the work for half the progress. And I'm sure everyone can probably relate to that. But, at the end of the day, I feel like I put in a 48-hour day and only worked 24 hours and did, made 12 hours of progress. So that's how it sort of felt this year for sure.
You guys are coming up with some COVID era bumper stickers for us to all put on our cars here with some of these phrases this morning. Anthony, how about you? What was the most vulnerable operation of your situation at the Hampton Inn and Suites once everything shut down and even coming out of the shutdown finally?
For us, our number one concern or vulnerability was our staff. A lot of our staff, when we closed down, that means no paycheck from us at the time. I mean, they were still trying to figure out how unemployment was going to really work. And it was a hope that it was going to work. A lot of our staff really didn't know how to use computers in that sense. And the website wasn't very fun. You couldn't really call in. I mean, the unemployment was doing the best that they could, and they were being overwhelmed. So it was a lot for our staff. So our number one concern at first of closing down was our people. And like, how are they going to be fed? What are they going to be doing? How can we remain connected with them? Because at first it seems great to be, they might be like, ooh, we get a break, we get some time off. But truly our people were wanting to be in the building, wanting to be at work. It gave them something to do, gave them a sense of purpose of coming in and work and doing stuff because they really like working with their hands or being around people. So for us, our first thing was, how can we take care of our people? And we did that because we knew we were going to be closed at minimum a month, right, at the time. And so we didn't want to, all of our food that we had that was going to be for breakfast and different items like that. We said, well, if they're going to go bad or expire, so we just cleared out our sweet shop. We cleared out our refrigerators and made food boxes for our team members and told them to come by and get it and say, hey, this is sorry we were not able to have any work for you to do right now, but this is what we want to do. And then continuing with conversations, weekly meetings and stuff that was all voluntary to get on either Zoom or Google Meets, and then steady giving them information about how to make it through food boxes or other programs, the lunch programs in the community, just different ways of doing it. And then even with reopening, I think for us, don't get me wrong, we love our guests and we think our guests are important, but our number one priority is to take care of our staff. Because if our staff is taken care of, our staff will take care of our guests. And so when we opened, we wanted to make sure that our staff was once again taken care of when they came in and feel a part of the reopening process. We didn't want them to feel like, okay, you came in and let's just go. No, let's have fun together. Let's rebuild the community get together that we had. And then let's start talking about how we're going to piece the hotel back. Because we covered things, we disinfected things before we closed, and then we had to uncover things and wipe down and disinfect it because because then the next step was, now how can we make sure we have the safest space for people to come in, and asking for the feedback from our team of, hey, this is what Hilton says, what can we do that's more than that? And just figuring that out and doing that. So like taking care of our staff and then making sure that our staff was prepared and ready to take care of our guests, that when they came in here, they did not feel a concern of staying at our hotel because everybody was taken care of, especially when you think about housekeeping staff. Our front desk staff is probably the safest staff because we have like basically our front desk is enclosed by plexiglass box that our former chief engineer built. It's beautiful. Like I'm like, oh wow, you went above and beyond what we were originally thinking, and it's great. Like they're safe and they have their masks. But when you think about our housekeepers, they're going in and out of these rooms. They're going up and down the hallways, and I mean they're wearing masks, they're disinfecting, they're wearing gloves, they're doing all that, but still they're being the most vulnerable. So how are we being a help to them to make it less on them as well?
Sure. And the comfort that is portrayed by your staff and how they feel easily comes across to customers, no matter what line of business you're in. So applaud all of you for thinking forward with how your staff is reacting to this. Anthony, this next question goes for you, and I know that I know that all three of you have probably experienced this as well. It's that eagerness of staff to get back to work once the gates opened again, and you could start infusing people into an in-person setting. How much did that eagerness translate into people that came to any of you to say, hey, I'm back at work and I'm excited to be back at work. And if you need me to do anything else, I am all in. Just let me know. How much of that existed and how are you able to take any of that energy and attitude and turn that into the opportunity to cross-train and have people that would fill multiple roles when we all know we couldn't necessarily come back to full speed in terms of a staffing standpoint?
Yeah, I think the staff that we were able to bring back that was like ready to come back and that wasn't worried about coming back, that was, what do we need to do? Because there was no guests for a little bit, right? When we brought them back a few days, close to a week before we even opened. And they're like, what do we need to do? Do I need to do this in the front desk? Do I need to set this up? Do I need to do that? And so there was an eagerness even to our students who work for us, but were still at home over the summer. When they came back in August, they were like, hey, I would love to go work over in breakfast and do some stuff over there, or I would love to do laundry here, or how can I do that? And so it's been a great energy to see that. And we've really utilized that because there has been departments that not everybody wanted to come back, or some people came back and now they found other job opportunities, which we celebrate. We celebrate when somebody is like, hey, I have a job that's going to pay me more and it's going to be better. We celebrate them great. Like we don't expect anybody to stay with us forever. And so we celebrate those moments. And so as we've been having people transition that have even came back, it's been allowing us to plug people into places that they've even flourished more than what they did in their original department. So, but then it's still good to know that, like, oh wait, when you get off at 11, if you transition to breakfast, you come in at 5, you might get off at 11, and if you're like, oh, I would like some more hours, can I get some? We can move you into maybe helping out laundry or maybe helping out housekeeping because they might be overwhelmed that day or short-staffed. So it's been great.
Jen, how about you? When the summer camp rolled around, did you have to have a lottery about who might be able to come back in and work in that setting, and how eager were they to help problem solve in other areas?
Yeah, I think our existing team, again, kind of like that specialized group of skills only rests with that one team. Anybody could do it, but really these guys have the rapport with the students, they know all the rules. And so it was really up to them to decide what they wanted to do. And we had lots of conversations about it because I think that there was, an expectable amount of nervousness around it, because not only do we have to be concerned about getting our staff sick and our kids sick, but if our children get sick, a lot of them are living with grandparents or folks who have pre-existing health conditions that make them high risk for complications with COVID. And so we had to factor in a lot of things. But, I would say when it came down to it, we all just had this energy towards, we have to find a way to make this happen. And, as I referenced earlier, they made some sacrifices in their personal lives as well to not visit parents out of town and to not see friends and to not go to weddings, just so that they could do this 8-week summer camp the way it needed to be done. And so we were super grateful that they were ready to answer that call and willing to do that. And, I think right now we've also seen that same level of eagerness to kind of step in. I mentioned the 2 roles that we're not going to rehire for right now. And so we've got people who are willing to take on school-based mentoring, people who are willing to take on high school support. And so, we've seen a team who's really willing to pitch in because they understand that these are unprecedented times and they're wanting to just step in and do what they can to make a difference.
Excellent. Jesse, how about you? What did you experience in this way?
Yeah, very similar to what Anthony and Jennifer were saying, that, our team, from the time that we were able to bring everyone back on the mountain, they were excited to pitch in and do what they can. And Grandfather Mountain has a family atmosphere, and it does go back all the way to Hugh Morton and the founding of our park. It was a family business before it transitioned into a nonprofit organization. And so we've always taken care of our staff in a way that we feel like family. And that culture really has helped us in this challenge, because everyone was willing to step up and do whatever it takes to make it happen. So in regards to cross training, it was just not a problem at all, because we wanted to help each other. And if there was a department that was struggling or limited or needed additional assistance, it's just not a question. Our staff were going to be there to help. And our job descriptions here, the number one job description on everyone's job description, including mine, is pick up trash, and make sure that the park is clean and tidy. And so we all do that. And I think that culture that's been there for 100 years really has served us well in this time, that people were there's not a job on Grandfather Mountain for any of our employees that would be above or beneath anyone. And so that culture, I think, has really helped us through this. And from a support system, Jennifer spoke to this earlier, but, it's not just about getting the job done and about having the park open. It's about serving our guests and serving them well, providing extraordinary experiences for them, knowing that they're going through the same things that we're going through, and also recognizing that our staff are going through the same things. And so it's paying close attention to our team members to make sure that everyone has what they need. During the closure, when food shortages were happening, I mean, you couldn't get toilet paper or paper towels, or maybe, and right now even, certain foods are still a bit of a challenge to get. So, because we have the mechanism of purchasing through the commercial sector for our restaurants, we were able to purchase things and then distribute that to our staff. So that was another level of it that's been a bit of a challenge this year, which is just, we have to take care of each other, and we're all in this together. That's sort of been a theme that we've used over and over this year, that we're all in this together, and willing to do whatever it takes. But we've actually fared pretty well. I think it's made us closer. We could definitely talk about silver linings. I know we all have them, but a silver lining for our group is I think this has really brought our staff, our board, our volunteers, and our donors together in a way that's never been possible before. We've all worked so closely together. And so it's a great silver lining, and I hope we can carry that forward and keep that closeness going forward through this.
Jesse, that's an excellent segue into the next question of the final 2 I have for you all this morning. And it's a little bit more of that, you get a chance to step back almost in an HR managing role during a time like this and watch people do things that are really going above and beyond their skill set that they may have thought they could have accomplished. I think we've all got that silver lining too, of that staff member where the light bulb really clicked for them and they took off in a hybrid role because they had new responsibilities that really energized them through the process. And Jesse, we'll start with you on this one again. How have you seen that kind of light bulb moment energize team members that may have been with you for a little while and they were doing that 1 or 2 or 3 specific things, but then they got that opportunity to do something different, and it really changed their attitude, it changed their outlook, and it changed their skill set to a point where now they are seen by management maybe as a little bit more of a Swiss Army knife, if you will, for the entire organization?
Yeah, I would say that we've seen that in a number of our employees here this year, and I think it would be true, fair to say that we've all had to add more tools to our Swiss Army knife for sure. Our maintenance staff is one that has really stepped up, and they ordinarily take care of landscaping and repairs, and a lot of the aesthetics of the park is under their purview. But they find themselves, they're also the ones that they can jump in, and they have a little more flexibility in their day. And so we've had some of our maintenance staff in departments. They might be working in the restaurant, or tagging merchandise for the retail shop, because we need the retail staff up in the park. And so that's been a department that's been really, really impacted this year, but I think it's made them all more dynamic in their jobs. We also have, I'll give one very specific example. We hired 2 educators this year from the low country of South Carolina, wonderful, very experienced naturalists. And they came here with a professional skill set of years of teaching people about nature and outdoors. And, day one, they are reading SDS sheets about hand sanitizer and about cleaning systems for how to disinfect the park. And, more than 60% of their job this year has been exactly that. It's been crowd control and sanitation and those types of things. And, I felt bad for them that they came here this year to be a grandfather mountain naturalist and to teach people about the biodiversity of this place. And instead, they learned a lot about chemicals. It was just so far out of their skill set. But they've done an outstanding job. And those are just 2 examples of how that's been impacted. But our staff have really, in a wide variety of ways, had to learn how to do that. Definitely made us all better, including myself. I know more about bathroom cleaning protocols than I ever thought I would have to know in this job. But it's part of the role, and it's made me better. It's made me a better leader for sure.
Anthony, how about you?
So we, I would like to echo what Jesse said. Is our maintenance staff has really stepped up. We actually, during the pandemic, right before we opened back up, we actually lost our chief engineer at the time, and his assistant was already planning on not coming back because he was just going to go home and just figure out other things. And his assistant, then we offered him an opportunity just to help us and possibly be the chief engineer. And he took that role and has taken it to another level that we're like, every day we're more and more impressed. We're like, whoa, wait a minute. We didn't even know we needed this, or we didn't and the attention to detail and stuff like that. And not only did he step up, he gave one of his staff members who did mainly public areas opportunities to work in maintenance and do different things. And he has shined through it. And now he's his assistant. And so we really watch people just grow right before our eyes, and seeing our hotel be even better because of that. Even the morale with our staff is even higher because of this change in leadership, and that we didn't even think was going to happen. We were like, okay, we're going to have to hire outside and bring in and teach the culture again. But he took it and ran with it, and it's been amazing to see the people he's brought up in growth with, as long as with him. So.
Excellent. Jennifer, I ask you the same question, and I would imagine too with some of the services that you provide, it's been as much watching people get really creative with how they can still supply those services as much as anything in this line of questioning.
It has indeed. The person that came to my mind first was Caroline Davis, who I hired as our events and operations coordinator. And when we had that position in mind, she started probably around this time last year. And so we thought, okay, she's going to be helping us with workplace safety and, timesheets and all the ins and outs and logistics that go along with being in an office. Little did we know that she was going to transition to being our technology coordinator. She was able to help us get our phones transitioned to where we could, have all the calls rolled to a cell phone and take turns, and, created that whole structure for phone answering, and helped us with the virtual gala. I had the vision, and she went out and just researched all of this and figured out all of these YouTube broadcast live things. And so stuff that I, as a over 40-year-old, can't even give language to, she was just on it. And so she has really really enabled us to be able to live in this virtual world, and it's been amazing. And the other example I thought of is that we have two staff members who were 3/4 time due to budgets, and maybe would have had to have gone back to 3/4 time after a full-time stint. But since they are willing to kind of take this new adventure into the high school world, they've been able to gain a new set of skills, stay as full-time employees, and also just, yeah, try out a new thing. They're both relatively new to Win, and so they've been able to kind of try out this whole other department at Win and really develop another set of skills there as well.
Well, and I think it's important to note too, and we've talked to so many businesses that have kind of had this same silver lining, to borrow what Jesse said there a moment ago. When you're in the grind of all we've been through, and you're looking for that positive, thing that keeps you motivated, is maybe that hiring manager, or maybe that operations manager, or the person that the buck stops with. When you see that employee get that regenerated spirit about them, or that they've got an opportunity that gives them a chance to really flourish on the other side. How much help did that provide? From a morale standpoint for us all, when we saw that, not only are we all, swimming upstream here, but there's some people that were going a lot faster than they were before, and it's so helpful. And that was really an uplifting element to all of this. My last question for you, I'll let you put on your HR hat here for a second. Experiencing what we have in the last 6 months, and knowing that all of you have been doing hiring progressively here in the last few months, and hopefully here soon we'll get a chance to do more. What is different about your process now versus a year ago in terms of what you're looking for, flexibility, and maybe even ultimately what you say to an employee that you hire now? Maybe not necessarily specific about cross-training, but setting that expectation for what to expect when you walk in the door day one. How is that different? Jennifer, we can start that with you.
Sure. Yeah. The first thing that comes to my mind is really just self-motivation. I think that we always expected that to be a goal. As a manager, I'm fairly hands-off. I step in when I need to, but I really like for people to be able to run their own worlds. I'm not a micromanager. And so I always had that expectation, but I think now more than ever in this work from home setting, we do have to have this professional trust in one another, and this expectation that someone can work from home and not have to kind of have that clock in, clock out world, but they can still accomplish everything they need to accomplish remotely without somebody looking over their shoulder and asking them for any sort of, report or goal sheet or anything like that. And so, I think that ability to be self-motivated is probably super critical. And it's one of the things that I've been so grateful that I've never had to worry about with the Win employees. Even from a distance, I can tell that they are still just dogging it every day. And so I think that that's going to be a skill that we have moved to the very top of the list.
That's a great point. And yeah, you're right, because, in a remote world, you don't have the ability to have those eyes on everybody all the time. It's that trust factor that allows you to do what you're doing, because, everybody else is doing their part. Jesse, what about you? What do you tell a prospective Grandfather Mountain employee besides get ready to get knowledgeable about chemicals? Outside of that, what are you telling them these days?
Yeah, very similar story. We need people that can come in and contribute. So it's harder to have a new employee, especially, come in and have the amount of time that we normally would take in orientation and training. And there's usually a period. It's almost 2 weeks for us, for new staff. It takes them before they really get to go out on their own footing and do the job that they're hired for. And that's being reduced. We have to get them out there and functioning at a faster pace. So we are looking for people that are more self-starters, that have a skill set that we can put to work quickly. And so that's part of it. The other part that comes to mind a lot now is safety. It's very important for us that if we're going to bring a new family member to Grandfather Mountain's team, that they're going to come here and be safe and be part of what we're trying to do. Our survival through this as a business is to be able to continue to be open. And so if we have reckless staff, that impairs our ability to do that. So it is a mountain-wide focus on safety. And so that's the first question that we ask now is, are they willing to do that? Are they willing to be part of that team? And and potentially to even make the sacrifices Jennifer talked about earlier, forego that trip, the traveling and those types of things, just to ensure that we're taking care of things locally and taking care of our operation here at Grandfather.
Well, that's a great point too, with understanding too that you're right. Just because you're open doesn't mean that you can't turn around and have to close right again. And we've seen some people that have had to go through some of that start and stop there. So important to set that tone. Great point, Jesse. Anthony, you can round us out on this one. What do you think?
For us, it's probably about three things that we're really pushing more than what we've always talked about, but we push a little bit more. One is a willingness to learn. We really want to know that they are willing to learn more about the hotel, more about the area, more about their department and other departments. And so whenever somebody is a lifelong learner, they're always going to be the best staff member to have, because you can train them on anything. The second thing is that they have goals beyond the hotel. We really want to know that, like, you're not coming here just to make this is what all I want to do. We want to push you to do more. We want to push you to be more than what's just around you. And so when we know that somebody has more goals outside of I just need a job, it helps us be able to push them to be better in their jobs, right? So we kind of want to look at that, because that goes with self-motivation. And then also that they understand the importance of interacting with our guests, and how big that is. Like, so we always ask this question now of, if you were to meet the love of your life's parents today for the first time, how would you introduce yourself? And it always throws people back. They're like, whoa, wait, what? And so they give us the answer, and we tell them the reason why we ask that question is every guest that walks through the door is just as important as meeting the parents of your love of your life for the first time. And to be able to, like, make that lasting impression, because you only have that impression one time, and if the parents aren't for it, then you might not, you might not have a chance anymore going forward. And so just so they can understand that, like, that is very important to us, that when somebody walks through, it's just that important to make that impression every time a guest walks through the door.
Again, lots of bumper stickers coming out of this conversation today, for sure. And maybe some of you getting motivated to ask some new hiring questions here as well. I think everybody brings up such great points in this. I'll let you guys go around the horn one last time, and any parting thoughts, words of wisdom or encouragement, because I think, again, the value of this conversation today is you are all saying stuff that I think is very much top of mind and resonates wholeheartedly with so many people in our community that are dealing with staffing challenges right now, and knowing that we're still not back to 100%. We might not be for a while yet too. So some of these conversation points will continue to be ongoing as we move into a new season, as we move into a new way of operation. So thank you all for sharing that. Jesse, I'll let you kind of go first and waving goodbye with a parting thought or two, and just anything that you can do to continue to motivate others to instill some of the same things that you've been able to do at Grandfather, to keep things moving as positively as you have throughout all of this.
Sure. And first off, really, I do want to thank the Boone Chamber. You all have been incredible leaders through all of this. We have leaned on you. We've learned a lot through interviews and sessions like this, webinars, and you've just been a great resource for me personally and for our team. So thank you for being a leader in that. But I think it goes back to, we're all in this together, as a community, whether it's an individual business, whether it's a family, but as a community, we're all in this together, and we need to lean on each other. I call people around this community a lot when I see someone doing something really well. I'm curious to know what they're doing, and I've learned so much. Definitely learned a lot today from Anthony and Jennifer, and so I love to hear what they're doing. And I'm a resource to anyone in the community that wants to know what we're into or anything we talked about today. If they're curious, please reach out. I'm glad to share any of our knowledge or things that we've learned. So thank you. Glad to be part of this today. Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate that. Anthony, how about you?
Yeah, I want to echo what Jesse said. Thank you for having us, and thank you, Jesse and Jennifer, for all that you shared. And there's been some great information. I would just encourage people, especially as leaders, that we need to make sure that we remain vulnerable with our staff, and let them see the human side of us, that we also have that struggle and those concerns and stuff like that. That will let them know that we're not just robots walking around, that we also trust our staff to do what we've hired them to do, and allow room for mistakes and failure. That mistake and that failure doesn't define who they are, and that we can always learn and grow with it, right? And then also that to remain consistent in what we do and encourage consistency from them, but knowing that consistency begins today. And that's one of the big things I've been on, is that consistency begins today. It's not about what you did yesterday. It's not about what you're doing tomorrow, but what are you doing today? And that's the only way that you can show that you're consistent by what you're doing today.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much, Anthony, for being a part of this today. Jennifer, you're the last, but you can bring us all the way home here.
All right. No pressure to make it inspirational.
Right. Yeah, you've got consistency begins today as kind of like the high water mark. Go.
I can't compete with Anthony. But I was just sitting back and thinking, like, this is another one of those things that makes Boone so special, being a part of the chamber, being a part of a community of wonderful leaders like this, who are not only smart but also compassionate, and it just encapsulates what makes Boone so special. So I'm just grateful to be a part of this fabric. And I think the only thing I would offer is, don't be afraid of technology. I'm saying this to myself as much as anybody else, but it's amazing what technology can do for you. Our team is starting to delve a little bit more into Trello and how sharing work in that way can really maximize our time together and help everybody know what everybody else is doing. Training videos, training ourselves, doing videos about how to do things within the organization, utilizing Google Calendar and things like that. Like, the technology exists these days to really make remote working manageable. So, just don't be afraid to embrace technology. That's my bumper sticker.
There you go. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's one we'll all put on our cars, I'm sure, in our own ways. So, well, again, on behalf of the chamber, thank you all for being so willing to share today. And I think you all bring up great points about just being able to pick up the phone and call others, whether they're in a business like yours or maybe they're completely different from you. Everybody's still faced with some of the same challenges. I think that's one of the things that's been helpful to us in moving forward, is seeing people being willing to share. Sometimes even competitors being willing to share and say, how are you dealing with staffing? How are you dealing with cleanliness in a retail setting, or whatever it happens to be? I think to Jennifer's point, that's what makes our place unique here in the high country of North Carolina, because we're willing to be friends and neighbors first, competitors on down the line, or whatever that happens to be. And we're just willing to help each other out through what are very difficult times. And again, as we move into a new season here soon, and understand that the way we play the game is going to change a little bit as we move into the colder months, and some businesses might not have the flexibility to do things moving forward the way they're doing them now. So that's going to take another round of phone calls to say, hey, what are you thinking about as we get colder? What are we thinking about as we move into a time where maybe it's not sunny and 75 every day? And the way we answer those questions as a community is going to go a long way to setting our path forward and how we're going to operate. So thank you all for being such a big part of that conversation. We appreciate your time today, and wish you all nothing but the best going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you all for joining us today, and we'll have another one of these community panels coming up soon as we use these as an opportunity to give you a way to again check in on some of those key things about how you are operating your business, and hear from others right here in our community about some of those best practices going forward. So again, have a great day, and thank you for your continued support of the Boone Area Chamber of Commerce. Take care.